1. Greetings, every people. It's your cult of personality here. Toon Critic's name, Toon's name again. Welcome back to Roundtable's Magic, a little show.
What was that rule about not interrupting again, just so I could hear it?
God damn it!
I knew he was gonna do that. I knew he was gonna do that. To be fair, it's fine.
Well, I'm genuinely curious. What's that rule about not interrupting when someone's talking? Oh, there I go. Sugar, honey, ice.
Welcome back to Roundtable's Magic. It's been a while since we've been here. We've taken a little bit of a break because season's over, so we don't really have much to really talk about. We could have gone on about analyzing every Equestria Girls short that recently came out, but we decided against that because we're not stupid and we're not doing that again.
Slaughter all of you.
So, who do we have here with us today? We have Golden Fox.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
I
want a nice, clean conversation.
Keep it above the belt, people.
Despio, are you there?
Yes, I am present.
Okay, we got Voice of Reason.
Hello.
We have British Ninja.
Hello, it is I, your completely serious and not at all joking around contrarian that hates everything that you like. I am 100% right as usual, but let's hear what these other morons have to say.
That's appropriate. And Lightning Bliss.
I whip my tail back and forth. I whip my tail back and forth. I whip my tail back and forth.
Right. Anyway, we are here today for today's episode. We don't have a special guest with us. It is just us, just sitting down to talk about the best and worst episodes of Season 7, our top 3 and our bottom 3. So the last time we did this, oh boy, we had some special guests pile in. This episode turned out longer than it should have. It was a mess. So we're not going to have that this time, hopefully. We're just going to have everything be chill, and we'll save the debating and arguing for after, when it comes to certain parts. So, who do we want to get started with first? Let's start off with our worst 3 and build our way up to our best 3. So how this will work, we'll start with one person, they do their worst 3, pass it on, worst 3, cycle it back around like we always do. So, who wants to go first?
I'm up for it.
All right, Voice, go ahead.
Yes, since it's December, we start off with the airing of the grievances, and we finish with what we're thankful for.
Yes. How appropriate.
Pretty much.
All right. So, people mute and let Voice give his worst 3.
Okay, so the bottom three episodes of the season angered me the most. So you'll get an idea of what I'm going into. Now, there was a line, I believe, in Josh's recent review about Spike at Your Service. Like, if certain characters act a certain way and you start to question it, then the story starts falling apart. And that one, for me, there was only one episode this season that did it for me, and that was Once Upon a Zeppelin, and that is my number 3 worst of the season. Watching this episode, the only thing I'm thinking is everyone in this episode outside the royal family was hit with the idiot stick. Not only does Iron Will not know how to run an event like this, like I was talking with my girlfriend about this, he has committed at least 3 crimes with this whole princess cruise: pony napping, blackmail, and obtaining property under false pretenses. Twilight has the advantage, and she doesn't pull rank on him, arresting him on sight. Twilight's parents aren't much help either. I mean, seriously. Who signs up for a free cruise, no questions asked? This episode is dumb, and I feel dumb after watching it. Now, for number 2, before I talk about number 2, I want to talk about another episode that for some people find controversial, and that is A Friend Indeed. Now, a lot of people question, like, why do you like this episode? And well, I think it works as a Pinkie Pie episode because it highlights her strengths and weaknesses when it comes to friend making. Sure, she can be a little upfront about things, but she always has the best intentions when trying to befriend Cranky. Heck, she made things right by giving him a spa treatment and replacing his wig on loan from Johnny Bravo. Rock solid friendship.
Voice, I hate to interrupt you. What season are you on with this episode?
Wait. Let me finish.
Okay.
Rock solid friendship, however, is what happens when you turn the flaws up to 11 and it overshadows her strengths. And I made this comparison on Twitter to how sketchy the Changeling saw Pinkie Pie, and it shows. Like, Pinkie Pie would not go to the lengths of blowing up a cavern just so two ponies can bond. Not to mention the absolute stupid decision to place Maud at the founding of our town retroactively. It hurts two characters just so one can look not as bad. Alright, number 1. The worst episode of this season. And I can describe it in just one word. Pain. All bottled up is nothing but pain. However, I will give the episode one thing. The moral is very good. It demonstrates well the dangers of bottling up your emotions. That being said, the B-plot was boring, the song is one of the worst in the show, and Trixie is an awful, awful character that makes me wonder why she's even friends with Starlight. The two have terrible chemistry between themselves, and it feels like the relationship is centered around passive abuse. I mean, give Starlight some credit where credit is due. At least she's making the effort to come across as a reasonable and well-meaning pony in Equestria in spite of the things she's done. Trixie Lullamoon is a freaking load that deserved everything that happened to her when Starlight could no longer bottle up her emotions. And when she had the gall to say, I didn't learn a lesson because where would the fun in that be? I almost punched my laptop in rage. This episode is freaking awful. There's no other way. All Bottled Up is the worst episode of Season 7, and it's now my number 2 worst episode overall.
Ouch.
Yeah.
You know... Sorry, continue?
Yeah, I'm done, but yeah, you want to follow up?
Actually, the funny thing is that when you were saying that you could describe the episode in one word, I thought it was going to be Trixie, because I'm pretty sure everybody knows what happened in that said podcast.
Yeah, so I toned it down for this one. So
you just made the list.
You just made the list. Anyway, now I aired my grievances, the next person to air their grievances shall be Lightning Bliss.
Yay.
Well then, okay then. So my top worst, starting at number 3. Oh boy. I don't think this episode is bad, but how far late it's come into the series, that's what I have probably the biggest complaint about it. Secrets and Pie. I just feel like this episode was an unnecessary filler that could have happened in season 1, 2, maybe even 3, but this far into the series, it was an unnecessary episode, basically a bounce off between Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie, and while it was entertaining with Pinkie Pie just going absolutely nuts on trying to figure out why Rainbow Dash isn't eating her pies, that was probably the only saving grace of this episode. I didn't find it necessary. I thought I kind of was disappointed with it. Because it was just like one of those episodes where I could have done without. Number 2. Not asking for trouble. Oh my god! I hate the axe! Is that specious to me? I hate the axe! How did this race survive for years? I don't know. Their morals and ethics of keeping their kingdom going is beyond stupid! I mean, okay, I did some research on real yaks that live in the mountains of Russia and parts of some of the coldest areas in the world. It is a tough environment for yaks to live with. They are very passionate, herding animal. They are very protective of their young. They're relatively passive. They're relatively peaceful. The only time they ever get aggressive is when it's rut season, mating time, and that's when the males like to headbutt. The yaks displayed in this episode, they blindly follow their leader, despite the fact they know that this is a bad idea. We really need to, move our city or town to another location. But no, we're going to wait it out to the snow melts because, hey, it worked before, right? Meanwhile, your children are starving and probably going to die in a few days. But whatever, what do I know? I'm just an alicorn. So that's number 2. Number 1. I'm disappointed with Shadowplay. I'm sorry. The finale was bittersweet. I did not really have fun with it. I did not like, you know what, I hate to admit it, but British Ninja was right. Ugh, British Ninja is right. I don't like that. Yeah. I don't like the setup. Starswirl the Bearded. I was hoping this episode was going to go for a different route. But then the whole fact that, like, gee, if Starswirl the Bearded were around, then Starlight Glimmer would have been put in jail or sent to a different dimension. Yeah, you would have Starlight Glimmer, and that would have been right of him at the time. I know the series is about talking about friendship is magic and whatnot, but I feel like this finale, while the finale did tackle, yes, that if communicating and befriending people and understanding their feelings can't fix a problem, that shouldn't always be the case. I felt like that was just shoved down our throats. And this was not a fun finale for me. I did not enjoy it. This is by far probably this is my least favorite finale of the entire series, and is my number one worst for season 7. I feel better. I feel a lot
sounds
better.
like you and Sketchy the Changeling are on the same page.
Just getting all the worst crap out of your system. I love it. So far.
Get it out of me! Get it out! Unleash the demons!
Be gone, Satan!
Be gone, demons! The power of Celestia compels you!
I couldn't agree with you more about the idiocy of the Yaks and not asking for trouble. At this point,
I'm going to elaborate on it when I get to my
later in
part.
the series. I'm sorry?
I'm going to elaborate when I get to my worst.
Yeah, but back to what I was just delivering my 2 cents on. The thing I can't stand the most is the frickin' leader, Prince Ruthless.
Rutherford, I think.
I don't care. That is his nickname. It's supposed to be like Ruth the Fur or Ruth the something or another. It's a complicated name.
It's a stupid name, anyway.
It's a stupid name, but this dude, he chooses his pride over what is best for the people. And it really sickens me that you have... how did he even get elected? How did he become the frickin' prince of this entire village?
I didn't vote
Because
for
I
you.
assume royalty, and that his parents were the leader of the herd, and he just inherits it.
Anyway,
We don't know
no.
much about it yet. They're still new characters.
who do you pass it off to, Bliss?
Oh, sorry.
Any mini money mode, catch a tiger by the toy. Oh, Uncle Songhorse.
All right, Thespio,
Oh,
what you
dear.
got?
Righty. For my worst.
Red alert!
Sorry, what?
Red alert! Brace yourselves!
Okay. Well, for my number 3, okay, I will say this. A majority of this season, it had its ups and downs, and a lot of episodes had some, I honestly, it was kind of hard to pick my, number, 3 and 2 worst, because there was only one episode where I didn't enjoy it all the way through. That's my number 1. But a lot of the other episodes had, they had some parts I liked, while a majority I didn't. I don't know, it was almost like, I call them halfway episodes. That's what I think my first 2, my worst list is. For my number 3 worst, I had a difficulty deciding between this one and Rock Solid Friendship, because I will say this much: Rock Solid Friendship, I can't fault Nick Confalone for writing something that was genuinely funny at parts. But yeah, a lot of the points I didn't like were already said by Boyce. So I honestly put that at number 4. But for my number 3, I have to give that to Daring Dunn. Look, Daring Do episodes are honestly a mixed bag for me. Read It and Weep was amazing. Daring... what was the second one? Daring Don't?
Yeah.
I was indifferent to it. Daring Done, however, up until the 3rd act with the Sphinx, I could not wrap my head around how... this is another one where every single townspony was also hit with the idiot stick. It's like, which do you prefer? A statue ruined or all of you dead? You should be kissing Daring Do's hooves repeatedly. So, yeah, Daring Do just... I remember the first time watching it, up until the Sphinx came up, I was like, are you serious? So yeah, honestly, I don't know. They had some good moments. Like I said, from the Sphinx up until the very end, it was good, but everything leading up to that was just a chore to get through. And that's all I can really say on that much. Number 2, it was also a chore to get through. Also because I have seen this type of plot done before, and if there's one thing that really dilutes my enjoyment of an episode, it's relying too much on predictability. There have been a few episodes that have done, very similar plot lines to other shows, and have put new twists on it, which I can appreciate. I got so very little of that out of Secrets and Pies. This is something that I like to heavily emphasize. I live by a very moral standard of communication is the necessary thing to survive with the people around you that you love. I got nothing out of that from Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash, it's probably no secret that she's my least favorite main 6. And I understand her intentions were good, but it was painful to sit through of Dash continuously lying to Pinky. I'm just like, okay, how much longer until the big blow-up comes up? I was constantly looking at my watch going, get to the climax already, get to the climax, please, hurry it up! It was another chore to sit through, because, I will give it this, just like Boyce said, Pinkie Pie being, I think it was either Voice or Ninja on a previous episode when we were talking about this. Pinkie being pushed to her very limits, I felt honestly very mixed about it. I found part of it funny, but at the other time I'm like, you poor thing. You poor pink little floof you. Just, Pinkie was middle of the ground, but I just thought Dash, her intentions were good, but at the same time, I'm like, what are you doing, you stupid mare? So, yeah, Secrets and Pies, that was a chore to get through. And number 1, I don't know if I can really add much to what's already been said by Voice, but I have to agree 100%, All Bottled Up was painful. Nothing but pure, unadulterated pain. Trixie, an episode like this cements her as a irredeemable character. I will say this much, Uncommon Bond almost did it. Trying to make Trixie a little more pleasurable to be around with her interacting with Sunburst. I will give Uncommon Bond this, but that is small cookies compared to what Season 8 will have to do for her to make me actually consider Trixie watchable. And like Voice said, when Starlight and the other ponies that were under Starlight's emotional spell was, giving Trixie the beatdown that she, quite frankly, deserved, nothing but pure euphoria. I'm like, thank you! And yes, the moral about the dangers of bottling up your emotions is a fantastic lesson. I just wish the things leading up to that moral wasn't a death wish to the audience. So there you go.
I like how everyone's just hating on All Bottled Up, and I'm just sitting here like, I kind of like that episode.
I kind of feel that way with a couple of other titles out there.
I
like,
liked it. I saw it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I liked it. I saw it for what it was. It's not on my best list, but I'd say it's pretty close. You know.
Yeah,
I think
and I'm one of the
people
few.
hate it too much, and I don't necessarily agree with the opinions been chucking around. But oh well.
I'm one of the few people who also liked Rock Solid Friendship, but.
We're gonna
I
have
heard Key in the background.
Golden-
Like, eh.
Golden, me and you are gonna have some fun times later on.
I want to say.
Wait, hang
I
on
can
a sec, guys. Key wants to say something. She's in the background.
Yep.
I want to say my least favorite surprise challenger enters the ring.
Oh Lord, hello, Key Frame.
All right.
I'm sorry. Did we give you permission to speak while you're sick?
Oh, let her go. Let her go.
I haven't been on the round table in 84 years.
And you sound like you haven't been on it for 84
And Half-Life 3 is still not out yet.
years.
Oh, you poor baby girl.
All right,
Okay.
guys. Let's Key Frame.
Hi guys, did you miss me?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure.
Wait, before we go, Will, was that all you had to say?
Yeah. I think that's all I can say. Just.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Key.
Well, let me just say this, folks. Season 7 was a fine humdinger of a season. I'm still catching up on episodes. But let me say what my least favorite of this season was.
Drumroll.
Was the episode where Applejack was being a dick to fashion designers in this season, or was that last season?
Oh my God!
That
Yes.
was the season. That was the season.
That was this season?
Yes, it was. Continue, please. Yes, that's a good one.
I have to say that was one of the hardest episodes for me to sit through. I know that some people don't see issues in the episode, and some people really like it.
That episode was universally hated.
No, I've had very pleasant conversations with people who don't see the issues, or they do, but they see it in a different perspective. I've had conversations with British Ninja and Will about it. So
Oh, yeah, no, I just whenever it comes to like the worst episodes, everybody constantly said, and I mean like outside the community, like in the chat, they're saying, honest apple, honest apple, honest apple.
well, let me explain why I don't like it. Shush, mute yourself. Okay. The reason I don't like it is that, to me, it felt like an episode that made a lot of loose ends and didn't feel the need to tie them up, so why put them in the first place? Let me explain. Like, I don't get why they brought up how Apple Bloom is good at stuff, and then we don't see Apple Bloom again till, like, the very end of the episode, but she contributes nothing. I don't see. That was one of the things. Keep in mind, I haven't rewatched the episode in a while because it doesn't give me the want to rewatch it. But the other thing is, it felt like there was just a huge jump in between. I felt like there was a part of escalation missing. The thing is, I don't mind the plot thing of Applejack becoming blunt. I like the idea of their elements becoming the fault side of the element. Like, kind of like how what they were trying to do with the friendship games, Crystal Prep, mirror versions of the main six, basically. Like how Sugarcoat was the really blunt person kind of thing. What they were trying to go for there. I don't mind that concept. But it went from Applejack giving a criticism that seems kind of legit to her ripping apart people's clothes, and there was nothing in between. Like, I just felt like there was stuff missing, and I shouldn't have to feel that. And obviously, if I was feeling better, I could elaborate further, but I just felt like there was stuff missing and stuff that was in there that could be taken out to be replaced with stuff that could be cleaned up. I really just thought that episode was not polished. And I don't mind AJ being an asshole. Like, the thing is, she has the out of all the main 6 besides Rainbow Dash, she has the full ability to, because her lacking a filter can do that. But she has been shown to have at least progression in her assholeness. I don't know, but that's what I didn't like about that episode. All Bottled Up is not on my list. But it gets an honorable mention because because Celestial Advice is next. I think Celestial Advice was one of the worst season openers of this series. It's worse than the Crystal Empire.
Oof.
Now let me explain. I just personally believe that episode was pure nothingness. And if I feel like it's kind of like what you guys are saying with Secrets and Pie, that's how I felt about Celestial Advice. Yes, we got a little bit of Celestia stuff, but the fact that we got the sisters episode later in the series, I'm like, you know what, I could have had without it. and it's just also like, what do we get out of this episode? It felt like this is an episode that could have been in the middle of the season. Maybe I would have tolerated it more if it was, but the fact it was the opening, Discord was useless in this episode. I just felt nothing watching it, and I was in a crowd of people at BabsCon watching it. And honestly, I got more out of the freaking fan reactions to All Bottled Up than I did about Celestial Advice. But yeah, so Celestial Advice, terrible opener. They should have picked another episode, and I just did not enjoy it. And then finally, my worst episode of the season is all of them. Voice hit it right on the head.
Oh, I know what this is.
Forever the Sweetie Belle Rarity episode with the fucking dog. Oh, look, I like Rarity. I like Sweetie Belle, and I like episodes where they're together and they had better interactions throughout the rest of the season. But this episode, I was grinding my teeth watching it. Like, me and ANY were he watched it before I did, and he wanted my live reaction while watching it. And I just could not stand it. The whole allegory with the dog was the thing that pissed me off the most. There was no need. And it got to a point, I don't know how to explain it. It was one of those episodes where I just felt irrational annoyance to. And you know what? That may be because I have certain biases towards people's behavior in real life that affect my enjoyment because the characters are acting in that way. Example, I have 2 half-sisters that never talk to me. So seeing Sweetie Belle without interacting with her sister for this long and being this unenthused and disingenuous with it really hit a wrong chord with me, but that's my own problem. If you enjoy Forever Philly or any of the episodes that I don't like, more power to you, but I just didn't. Rarity became stupid near the end. Sweetie Belle was an edgy little teenager, and there's only so much of edge that I can take in my daily nutrition, and she was going way over that. I needed an insulin shot. And the character with the dog, I never want to see her again. I never want to see that character with the dog again. Cause
what do you have against Sofia Vergara, Pony?
I just don't like the freaking puppy analogy. We call dogs puppies all the time. They don't have the cognitive reasoning to not like that. That's just a fact. But yeah, Forever Philly was my least favorite of the season, and yeah. So did you miss me, guys? Did you miss my brand of keyframe happiness?
We all missed you.
You're definitely not going to miss it when I say my favorites, because I think all my favorites of this season are the episodes that people hated.
I love you.
Anyway, I'm going to pass this off. Oh,
Excuse me.
what?
Technically, you stole who I was gonna pass.
Sorry?
Oh, don't worry about it. It's all good. Who you pass it off to, Kate?
So,
Is Will fine with me passing it off? Because he sounds annoyed.
Oh, you alright, buddy?
well, I was going to pass off to somebody, but for the spots. So,
You pass it off, then, Will, whatever.
You're good.
We're all friends here,
Well-
guys. Don't take anything too personally.
anyway, with that said, I'll pass this off to me, mine. You know what the hell? Go ahead, Toon.
I was going to pass it off to British Ninja because I miss saying it. But you go, Toon.
No, you know what? No, I'm gonna let Ninja go. No, I'm gonna let that. No, Key, you were originally gonna go with something, so you go ahead. You pass it off to Ninja.
Okay, I'll pass it off to Zach afterwards then.
Fine by
My
me.
number 3. Okay. My number 3 is Campfire Tales, or Trails, or whatever it was called. This episode, when it was originally aired, I thought it was just kind of like a pointless excuse to insert random lore. You know, the writers took a day off at the writer's office and just had kind of a lazy and poorly constructed campfire episode. That's not bad. It's not good, but it's kind of mediocre, you know. And then the season ended, and I realized it's even worse because we were meant to care about learning about all of this. Like, before, I would have just let it fall into mediocrity, because, in my opinion, it was really forgettable. But then the finale has to slap me on the back of the head and try and pass this episode off as, like, something that incredibly matters, something that needs to be seen in order to understand what's going on in the finale. And from that perspective, it turns this episode from 20 minutes of poorly constructed lore into 20 minutes of straight exposition. And that does not make Ninja a happy panda. That makes Ninja a very sad panda, and a very bored panda. Right, moving on to number 2 is A Health of Information. Now, this episode is a disappointment to me, because I really wanted to like it. In fact, I did like some parts of it. I thought Fluttershy was really cool this episode. But what drags this episode down is one critical flaw that cripples the entire structure and moral and the characters and the logic behind the actions taken. Zecora is dying. Well, they can't say dying, but she's turning into a tree permanently. And Twilight Twinkly Dinkly Sparkle is like, oh, Fluttershy, why are you in such a rush? You know, take a break. We got time. There's no need to find a rush for this cure of a fast-acting and currently incurable disease. It's not like we should get the rest of the main 6, or anyone else of that matter, to help save our friend's life. You know, the moral has the gall to put Fluttershy in the wrong for pushing herself as far as she could go to save her friend. And I get what it's trying to do. It's arguably a great moral, completely ruined by this one minute factor that Fluttershy is completely justified, and the rest of them are either morons or monsters. Also, this falls into the same trap of focusing this exposition/setup disguised as lore down everyone's throats in a trend that has plagued this entire season, only to build up to my number 1 least favorite, and you should all not be shocked whatsoever. My worst/least favorite is Shadowplay. Both of them. I think this is the worst finale. By far. No other finale even comes close to how much I hate this pair of episodes. You know those characters you were forced to learn about? You know, I hope you remember them, because they are relevant now. And even if you were looking forward to them, you're out of luck as well, because every single character bar Twilight, Starlight, and Starswirl gets shafted to the side with a pitiful amount of relevance to the actual plot of this finale. They're just there to power up the elements. They don't really have much characterization. They don't mix in with anyone. They just exist so that this story can work for some stupid reason. Now, let's talk about Starlight, the thing that everyone else got shafted for. And, let's be real, I've been one of the more nicer critics to Starlight. I was a firm preacher of the Holy Church of Glim Glam and the Zimzam. However, I can't let this slide. She is awful in this episode. Like, she is beyond stupid. She risked the entire world and all of the lives in living in it on the hunch that Stygian was a misunderstood person. The ginormous leap in logic is not only insane, but I'd like to clear up something. Being misunderstood does not justify or overshadow the action Stygian takes. I don't care if he was a nice guy once upon a time, so was the Joker. Being misunderstood does not give you the excuse to be a terrorist, which is what he became. He was a dangerous threat who needed to be neutralized for the safety of the world. And this stupid unicorn thought that Starswell, the man who sacrificed his life to seal away this evil, was and someone who was justifiably furious with Twilight's idiotic and contrived decision to bring him back without a freaking backup plan, might I mention. Like, they have the gall to try and paint him as someone who's in the wrong here when he was the only smart person in the room. Was it cold? Yes. Was it what needed to be done? Yes. Like, oh my god, I hate how contrived this episode is to make Starlight correct. And of course they had to make it correct. The show's called Friendship is Magic, but my god is it so stupid in this episode. I've never seen a worse reformation in this show than I have Stygian. And I think the death nail of this episode for me, the point where I just couldn't stand it anymore, is when Starlight goes to Twilight in this massive emotional scene where the writers are like, haha, we've got you now. And Starlight says, I'm glad that Starswirl wasn't around when you chose to, reform me, or else I would have been banished too. And the only thought in my mind was correct. Starlight should have been banished. The fact that she got off with zero consequence and was allowed to practice magic under Twilight was an incredibly stupid decision. You broke the whole space-time continuum, and you got off with a slap on the wrist. Yes, you deserve to be banished, you stupid horse. My god, I hate this finale. I hate it with all my gall. I hate how forced and contrived and illogical and stupid and, I can't even put it into words properly. I despise it so. Easily my least favorite finale. And with that said, I will pass it off to Zach.
God damn, tell us how you really feel.
Yes.
Okay, who are you and what have you done with the ninja I hate?
Hey man, I'm firm but fair. I like Starlight most of the time, but she was the worst.
That thing you said about Starlight, that's exactly how I felt in the cutie remark, and I just... Okay, you know what? Props. That just... Okay. you went up a bit in my respect for you now.
Wow.
Cheers, buddy.
All right. Okay, so for me, it's funny. Actually, I've gone so far without watching the season. I didn't bother to rewatch episodes, but I just wanted to try and remember episodes that did not sit well with me. So these are my three. Number 3 for me is A Health of Information. This episode, I'm totally going to go with what Ninja's points were. Those hit a lot of nails right on the head for me. But it's just... the biggest thing with this episode, 2 things that I don't like about it. One is that it seems like this season we've had episodes where the main 6 have had that one episode that hits them so hard with the idiot stick, it blinds them to what's really going on. Or rather, in Fluttershy's case, she gets hit so hard with the idiot stick, she does the reverse of what she usually does, and tries to go full-on assertive to the point where people actually have to drag her back, when in fact, her going forward as a character is what people have wanted, but now people don't want that for some reason. They want her to still be the same character as before. They don't want her to be assertive. That makes no frickin' sense to me. And 2, you mean to tell me that there was a book with a cure for a never-before-known disease. This book has the cure. Nobody knows what the cure for this was in any modern science, like all over Equestria. This one book has the cure, and you mean to tell me that you're not sharing the cure for this disease that is happening outside of your home with other people? That's like if there's AIDS spreading all over Equestria, and this one book has the cure for AIDS, but nobody bothered to bring that book out of the home where it was originally contained, and now it's spreading all over the frick. God, I hate this episode. God. And just on top of that, it's not an enjoyable episode. It's very meh at best. It's a very meh Fluttershy episode. Them introducing it for one of the future pillars to show up. They kind of retconned a lot of stuff with that too, which makes no sense to me at all, so just whatever, this whole episode felt pointless. Also, Zikora's dying, probably should make that a priority. No? Okay. I'd love it. I would love to see if Zikora actually did get turned into a tree, and then she's never heard from again, and we keep that in the show, because friendship is fucking magic. Alrighty then. Number 2. Number 2 for me is not asking for trouble. The Yaks are, at least in my mind, the most pointless and the most useless characters in the show. There's nothing good to them. There's nothing redeemable to them. They are pointless. They are a waste of animation. Every time they show up on the screen, it's dollars wasted from the budget of the show that could have gone to something better. This episode infuriates me simply because what Prince Rutherford was doing is just like, no, all I care about is no, we don't need any help. We're gonna be fine on our own. Okay, good. Have fun freezing to death and dying. This is another episode where death is a potential consequence, but gets just shafted to the side because we can't have death in the show. This season has had multiple times where people could have actually freaking died. Just like in the movie. But the movie isn't canon as far as we know, so we'll just save that for another time. This episode infuriates me simply for the Yaks, not so much for Pinky. Pinky, you know what, I will give a lot of credit. She was willing to go above and beyond what needed to be done in order to get help for the Yaks. And you know what? Good on Pinky. Good on you, girl. This is one of the few episodes where I liked you and I didn't hate you. Number 1 is rock solid friendship, and I go right back to hating you because god damn it, Pinky. You have good moments, and you have moments like these. Rock solid friendship, to me, I've been in a situation like this where I've seen, one of my friends try to get these two friends to work together. And here's the thing, friendship is magic, but sometimes friendships don't always work out. Friendship is not the end-all, be-all answer to fixing a problem. Even though the show is called Friendship is Fucking Magic, that does not mean that is always the answer. You have to understand rejection. You have to understand that sometimes friends just don't get along, or maybe they do, and you can't figure out why. There's the thing. Just because your friend does not have a lot of friends does not mean that it's a bad thing. Maud is perfectly fine being on her own. You don't have to constantly friendship her with literally everybody you know. And on top of that, being a constant watchful eye over it. And what is the phrase? A cooked pot never boils, or whatever the way the phrase goes. I'm just saying, god damn it, Pinky, you've had some really good episodes where you have been the problem solver, where you have been the end-all be-all answer to how things work. You're the one that usually gets these things right, but goddamn, I have never seen you fuck up this bad. Oh my god. God, this episode, I have a hate boner off this episode. Whew. Oh boy, it actually feels good
from here.
Huh?
I said I could feel it rotting from here.
God, for you to say, tell us how you really feel to British, Jesus.
Whew.
What? What's up?
And I wasn't even cartoons for that.
Hey, give him this. At least I tried to restrain myself. But god.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I went to go get food. What was said?
Oh,
Rock solid friendship.
don't hold this off any longer. I've been waiting forever.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I
go
don't mean
for
to
it.
hold it up. Just like a general. Like, did you crap over a rock solid friendship or something?
Yes, I
Oh,
did.
yeah, he went livid
Oh, okay.
on
He went
friendship.
I
he
went ham.
shit.
I went fucking comboed like crazy, like freaking. Oh God, I'm in such a blur out of getting all those angry thoughts out of my system. I actually feel really better right now. I don't know. I've been having a crappy week. I feel
You know what's
liberated
funny?
now.
Like,
All right,
Dude,
let's.
dude,
a lot of people have been
if you're
tossing
willing-
around two
If you're
episodes.
willing to go all out for that, then why didn't you say so? I would have done more.
This
to
will be
tear
an
my life
interesting
up.
defense.
Yeah, I would have done too. But anyway,
boy.
Locks, I believe it's time. I believe
it
it's
is
your
now
turn.
time for
Yeah.
Goldilocks to get his
Yes,
worst 3.
finally.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Just one quick correction, Toon. It's been stated that the MLP movie takes place between seasons 7 and 8.
Whatever. Pinky almost died in that.
All right, so this one's going to be kind of difficult for me because apparently there have already been 2 episodes that everybody else has said. Number 3 is Secrets and Pies. One of the things that drive me up the wall is when I look back, and obviously there's certain moments that can get under people's skin. Some people doing something the wrong way in such a manner. And what Rainbow Dash was doing, she was constantly faking everything out, and she was almost coming off as a bit of a troll every time she's given a pie. The whole concept of she's lying because she doesn't want to hurt Pinky's feelings, that sounds like that's a good message, but it's not. It contradicts the moral of Where the Apple Lies. And mind you, I was not a big fan of Where the Apple Lies for other reasons, but at most it had a good message. It was a very weak message. But it is important to know that telling lies is not always the best solution. It's always been said that you should never tell lies. And that's really the kind of message that Secrets and Pies has been contradicting. Along with that, it's one of the things that irritate me the most is when I find a really bad moral. I can see where people are coming from with the health of information, and that's more of how I should realize, and maybe I should think a little more about health of information, because I know that people are going to contradict me, because I'm one of the few people who like the health of information because of Fluttershy. But disregarding that, when it comes to a moral that I just find problematic, it will get under my skin badly. So that's number 3 for Secrets and Pies. Number 2 is Honest Apple. I thought I was going to be the only one to talk about it until the certain tall unicorn intervened.
There's a dog outside and it's adorable.
Everybody in this episode was either a complete idiot or a complete asshole. The whole situation with AJ, they cranked her stubbornness way up to 11, where, like, it just feels like it's kind of backwards when you compare this episode to Applebug's season, where she needs to learn to put her stubbornness aside. She even learned to accept help in Super Speedy. When I'm saying good things about Super Speedy in regards to Applejack, holy shit, you've strung a new low. And that is what Honest Apple did. They rooted her character back to her stubborn behavior until she needed to get a taste of her own medicine with that strawberry pony. That is a whole new low right there. I don't hate Honest Apple as much as Super Speedy, but it was just unpleasant to sit through. Everybody else, Rarity, while it is understandable to find practicality for, dresses and such, Applejack was really not the best decision. And on top of that, she didn't really plan this in advance. She didn't talk to Applejack about this sooner. It just completely comes right out of the blue. And I do believe that you can write a good Applejack episode, and I'm sick and tired of people saying that AJ is best background pony. It's annoying. She can have good moments. She can have good episodes. I just think that the writers are focused too much on the strengths with the characters who have achieved a lot throughout a majority of, their character arcs. Applejack doesn't have that, but I'm pretty sure that based on the fact that she's the quote-unquote voice of reason throughout a majority of the episodes, it didn't seem to sit well with what she was doing in Honest Apple. Now, before anybody else gets carried away, I don't think this was character assassination, but they definitely portrayed a lot of her traits in the wrong ways possible. And I will admit that her challenge towards her honesty and how it can hurt some people's feelings was put up with that. And that's one of the few things that I can give credit for. But after watching this episode, it's just one of those episodes where, while I get what they were going for about having an honest opinion can hurt people's feelings and you should be careful with how you voice your opinion, it just feels like a jumbled mess. Yeah, the message is that when you go to voice your opinion, you don't just use the opinion card. You got to think about other people's feelings and what you were talking about.
I thought it was don't rip up people's stuff.
I'm stalling too much. I said before that when it comes to an episode that has a bad message, that's when it grinds under my gears, because this is a show aimed for a specific not specific young audience. It's mostly family targeted. The show is moral driven. When you give a bad message, it becomes a huge problem to kids because you can spread a potentially bad influence on them. I know that there are cartoons like Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes where the slapstick is ridiculous and over the top, and realistically, anything that happens to any of these characters can kill you. But kids are not stupid to think that that can actually happen in cartoons. In real life, it will actually hurt you. You know, there was a whole commentary on that with the Simpsons episode, but I'm getting too far off the subject. My number one, and Will is going to really hate me for this, it is parental guidance. Because the whole episode went completely one-sided on Rainbow Dash throughout the entire third act of the frickin' episode, and most of the time, what was playing in my head was that moment from the Nostalgia Critic going, no, 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 no. That's a terrible message because, first of all, parents are going to make mistakes. They are not perfect. Second of all, when you try to tell kids to completely submit themselves to parents and only rely on their parents because they're good people, that's not you being dependent on yourself. I get that this episode was supposed to illustrate that you should be grateful to have good parents. And while I get that, it was not properly executed. A majority of the episode, the parents were completely obnoxious. They were clingy. They did not know the meaning of personal space. They learned nothing afterwards after they were yelled at by Rainbow Dash. Now, was it right for Rainbow Dash to completely snap and aggressively yell at them? Yeah. But was it understandable as to why she did what she did? Yes. Why? Because of everything they were doing. This led up to this point where Dash completely blew up. And before anybody tells me that Dash should have told them in advance to just give them personal space, she was busy with her job with the Wonderbolts. She doesn't have time for that. And when it comes to the point where they even enter the locker room when they're not supposed to enter, that's just a breaking point. And the fact that Dash was put completely in the wrong really pisses me off. It pisses me off so much because, yeah, she did not have the right to completely yell at them in such a manner, but the parents need to learn personal space. And the part that really gets to me the most is where Rainbow Dash goes to set up an apology play in the most over-the-top thing possible, as if they were completely in the right. To add insult to injury, Dash joins with the parents to go rooting for Scootaloo. Now, I get that Scootaloo did not have these kind of parents, but they didn't even have a conversation where they said, we're sorry, literally, for getting in your personal space. We just care for you and we want to look after you. That could have explained so much with just a tweak of dialogue, and they didn't even bother to put that in there. On top of that, this was written by Josh Hamilton, who wrote for Avatar: The Last Airbender. He should have known better on what to write. Now, one other thing to get out the way is that, yes, it is important that you should be grateful for parents who actually care about you, because there are people who have dealt with parents who don't have that mentality, who don't have that type of care. And that is an issue in the world. But when you make these characters go completely zany and over the top, it's completely backwards in what you were trying to illustrate. Most of the execution was so badly worded that everything that what it tried to do flipped itself upside down, saying, hey kids, you have parents who are completely clingy and will always look after you? Be grateful to them no matter what, because they know everything in this world. And that is not a good message. Good God, I am holding this microphone. I'm jittering holding this microphone in my hand.
Feels good,
Aren't you
doesn't it?
glad you're getting this all out of your system now?
Yes! I'm sorry to yell at the top of my lungs, but this third act irritated me so much. Also, this was Scootaloo's fault to begin with for why the parents were brought up in the first place and why they entered into the academy. If this episode had tweaked that dialogue where they said, we are sorry for doing what we did, that would have been fine. Or if most of the time the parents are there and they're just waving and not going, go Rainbow Dash! Or even launching a rocket in the air, nearly killing Fleetfoot. If you took those out and just made them just, be present and just waving and everything, and then Dash is just tired of them being present, then it would have been a lot more understandable of what they were going for. But as is, this episode really, really just... This is just something that could have been really good, but it flipped itself upside down.
Hey, Golden.
Yes?
Here's a Snickers bar.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Okay.
Say your happy episode, Fred. Calm yourself.
Fuck me.
And now what are we thankful for?
Yes.
Thankful-
I'm thankful for the Lord giving me this last little house I'm staying, y'all.
I will fucking slap you upside the... Oh, my part of my language. I will...
It's too late. The PG rating got like shotgun, so it's okay.
Anyway, are we going backwards now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Golden, you okay?
I needed to get this off my chest because the things that bothered me, there are people who like the episode, and if you do, fine. That's perfectly fine.
All right, Golden. What are your top 3 episodes of season 7? Let's work.
All
backwards.
right, top 3. This is going to be a bit challenging
Please
for
move on
me.
to the positives, because quite frankly, you're scaring me.
That's ironic coming from you.
All right. Let me get to the top 3 that I like. I'm probably going to get shafted for what I choose to pick.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, my number 3 is Celestial Advice, and I'm going to explain why I got a lot out of this episode, whereas Keyframe said she got nothing. This episode had a nice, beautiful interaction between Twilight and Celestia in regards to what it's like to be a mentor and what decisions you have to make next. And the fact that she's feeling about what to do with Starlight Glimmer based on how much she learned is almost putting herself in the same shoes with Celestia. And this gave a bit of history with what Celestia has to do. And this fixes a lot of the issues all the way back to the pilot episode where people continued calling her a troll. They called her so many other things because she wasn't formally communicated with Twilight. But the fact that, she even feared, oh, what if they encounter a Manticore? What about this and that? Well, that kind of happened back in the pilot episode. It's kind of hysterical that happened. But the complaint that I hear all the time is that Starlight chooses to stay. Just because Twilight had the same kind of treatment as Celestia did doesn't mean everybody else has the same thing. Some people will have different routes. Starlight is not ready yet. And in this kind of scenario, Discord was just really a dick just to set all this up. Now, despite that he had all of this to set up, this also could have been set up by Twilight's OCD, but whatever. The point is, I enjoyed the interaction, and I think it's a really good episode for somebody who is a parent, a teacher, a mentor, and what they have to do for their student in the process of what you are teaching them or what you are training them to be. And I think that this is a very interesting take on that. I also appreciate the fact that this broke the norm, and it's kind of, adding bonus points here, that this wasn't a 2-parter. It was just a single episode. And I also think it was actually acceptable to make it a first episode because it takes place right after To Where and Back again. Wow, I'm stuttering like crazy here. So that's a number 3. Number 2, Discord and Harmony. Discord and Harmony I was convinced that the shipping between Fluttershy and Discord is adorable and hilarious, and it easily helps further develop the development with Discord's character as he learns the errors of his ways and knows the trials and errors on what to do and what's best for others when it comes to interaction and friendship. I kind of illustrated that briefly with Make New Friends But Keep Discord. Discord and Harmony tops that over by a long shot. He's not sure on what to do for Fluttershy. He is so insecure, he fears the worst that can happen, and he panics by changing everything else, and this turns into a visual representation of what happens when you're not being yourself. It's incredibly shocking when you see him slowly vanish and disappear, but that metaphoric vision I just thought was just perfectly timed in an episode that is over the top and silly, but something as dark as Fading Away can easily illustrate that. And I just really love the interactions between Discord and Fluttershy near the end of the episode, when everything Fluttershy wanted was what Discord was setting up in the first place. Also, every time I think about that episode, I cannot stop thinking about those singing tea bags that go, la la la, la 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 la. It was hysterical. The episode was funny, and I think it represents a really good message about what it takes to do what's best for your friend, but not overthink things to the point where you're literally starting to lose yourself. Ha ha. So, putting to number 1, I would have put Perfect Pair on there, but unfortunately I can't. But this is more of number 2. Yeah, so that means Discord and Harmony is 3, and Celestial Advice is 4. So this one, and this is a rather polarizing episode, it is a royal problem. For the longest time, I wanted an episode centered on Celestia and Luna, not just because I like the characters, but because potentially they could represent something important within those characters based on the pilot episode. We did get episodes about Luna, we rarely had episodes about Celestia, and even though we do understand a lot about Celestia, how would she cope with Luna? They don't play this as often, and I feel as though this should have been, okay, not should, but it would have been nice to address this in a much, much earlier season. But better late than never. I like the fact that they're tackling on something about their own personal hobbies that almost reflects upon the same issue with the pilot episode that could have repeated itself, where Luna is, jealous of Celestia, but Celestia thinks that Luna has it nice and gets off scot-free because she doesn't have to do this and such and such. This kind of conflict, I think, is something that could have been talked about in a much earlier episode, but again, I'm repeating myself. I like that they tackled on this issue. I thought it was a really nice idea to include Daybreaker as the polar opposite of Celestia. Now, I did hear some complaints saying that Daybreaker is a pointless character, or where did she come from? How does Starlight know about this? I'm pretty sure that we would get a later episode that would solidify that or explain it. But regardless, I like that this, it was going for this. And I'm one of the people who thought that having Starlight in there was a better idea than Twilight, because Twilight is so biased and so towards Celestia based on the fact that she was raised by Celestia as a mentor, or as a protege, that it wouldn't do proper justice. And while we do understand that she is one of the people who sometimes thinks open-mindedly, we also saw the true colors of what could also happen between those two to an OCD degree. And I know that some people are not a fan of the OCD mentality. I'm one of the few people who love it and thinks it's kind of justifiable. But having Starlight, she barely knows those two characters, and she is trying to understand from the neutral perspective, and I think it was much more appropriate to have Starlight than Twilight. Disagree with me all you want. And just, I was very satisfied that we got, a lot of things of what I felt was necessary for Celestia and Luna ever since the beginning of the series. And one other thing, I also like the fact that the show centers on other characters outside of the main 6. If it just continued centered on the main 6 all the time, it would have grown stale, it would have gone boring, it would have lost its touch, and people would have lost interest in the show and say, gee, I wonder if it's this same lesson again or that lesson again. Yeah, I know, people are going to contradict me over what I said about defending Fluttershy. But despite that, imagine if The Simpsons only centered on The Simpsons instead of the conflict with Principal Skinner or a conflict with Moe or other characters. This adds variety to the show, and I like that every now and then they center some character outside of the main 6. I'm not saying they should completely center outside the main 6 permanently, because that would devalue and completely detract of what made the show important in the first place. I'm going too far off topic with that one. I am ending my piece with a royal problem. I await the responses.
Well, if I may, I think it's actually
Well,
really...
that's a mouthful!
Jeez. Yeah, if I may, I think the great thing about having Starlight be there instead of Twilight is that I guess Starlight is a neutral perspective, but also I guess an audience perspective. For those who probably have not watched the show up until that point, so it's a nice little, I think, neutral starting ground. So I thought it was a good idea. Anyone else?
I'm good. I think we're going to continue on to yours.
Wow. Wait, what's up? What's the question?
I think we were moving on to Toon. I mean, I also have stuff to say about a royal problem, but we'll wait for that till we get back to me.
All right.
Okay, so my top 3. God, excuse me. So my top 3, I actually had to rethink them because I couldn't put Perfect Pair at number 1. I had to really think about my third favorite. But I think my third favorite goes to the Lightning Bliss show. Once Upon a Zeppelin. We're going to go with that.
I swear to everything, Celestia, Zach, I will end. Somebody restrain me.
You know, I would have just played that Full House theme if...
No, we don't want to get copyright thrown on us.
You don't want to get your head chopped off. I mean, wait, what?
Continue.
Alright, so... I got my dinner here, too. Alright, so Once Upon a Zeppelin for me is my third favorite episode, because I like that we actually get to see the entire family dynamic of the Sparkle family. We get to see Shiny and Cadence and Flurry Heart. We get to see Twilight's parents, however stupid that they are in this episode. And we got to see, I guess, Twilight actually get to do something, or I suppose in this case sort of figure out what she wants to do with her family. The one big thing that I liked in this episode is its moral, is that you can't always do everything all at once. No matter how hard you try, sometimes you won't always be able to get done everything you want in a certain amount of time. Things happen. Shit happens, basically. I like that the episode was basically just one big moral going back to shit happens. You know, you can't always get what you want. Not everything is going to go as perfect as you can. What matters, instead of perseverating on how bad things have gone so far, how are you going to make it up so that you can at least salvage what you can of those good moments? So, for me, that actually hit a personal spot there. And the reason we call the Lightning Bliss show is for that reason. Because poor Twilight gets stuck behind, like, not being able to actually do what she wants and hang out with her family, and it really sucks. But I suppose such is the life of a celebrity or something. But what you can do, at least, is make up for lost time with, I guess in a sense, finding the best amount of quality out of the time that you're given. Which sounds a little strange, but I still really enjoyed the episode. Number 2, for me, is To Change a Changeling. Not because Pharynx is the edgiest dude around. I'm not going to go with that as my main reason. It's one of the reasons, but it's not the main reason. To Change a Changeling for me was the big thing about it. It's change. You know, some people aren't always going to want to go with the change. But again, I'd like that this episode emphasizes that change is not always a bad thing. And I know that some people like to stick to the roots, stick to what's original, stick to what makes them good. I was totally on Pharynx's side here. Because what if Chrysalis just shows up again? What if she comes back with like a new squadron and just raids and destroys what's left of the changelings? As much good as it is to start over with a whole new era of changelings, maybe it's not always a bad thing to have a mix of both. And what they did there with Pharynx is they showed, at least from his perspective, that change is not always a bad thing, but don't try to force it. And this goes on both ends. Don't try to force things back to the way they were, but also don't try to completely destroy the new thing just because someone else wants to try it. There's nothing wrong with change. A lot of people a lot of people don't like change specifically because it goes against them. That means they have to, I guess, put effort into switching up their personality or switching up what they usually do. Oh, boo-hoo. You have to not be lazy and you have to try something different. Well, again, change is not always a bad thing. And I think I also brought up in my thoughts in that episode how it stands from a military standpoint as well, with how most military people aren't good with change when it comes to adapting to normal society. So, good on MLP for actually approaching that perspective and talking about it, or at least dealing with it in a way that I thought was actually quite appropriate for kids to understand, making it understandable on that level. Now, my number one favorite episode, and I had to think about this because I know not everyone is going to agree with me on this, and there are some who probably will not put this as their number one. For me, at least, number one is Fame and Misfortune. This episode, unlike Slice of Life, actually has a little bit of quality to it. Right up until the last maybe 3 or 4 minutes left of the episode. But I think this is a great episode for many different reasons. It celebrates how far the characters have come since the beginning, which is good. Character progression is key. It is very important. It is essential for these characters to have progressed and shown all their development throughout the years from what they used to be. And they kind of summed it up all in one song. It's okay for a character to be flawless. It's okay. You don't have to worry about your character having flaws. Flaws are always good because it shows that they're human. It shows that they're not overpowered. Flaws are relatable because a lot of people have flaws and they look at characters with similar flaws and they can relate to these characters. So long as these flaws are not the one defining character trait about said character. So you add on to that as well the interesting part of spreading lessons around and people misconstruing that. Sometimes lessons, if you look at them from certain perspectives, don't always match up to yours. You could look at one lesson and relate to it, but some other person will look at that lesson and not relate to it. And that's okay too. It's totally fine. You cannot always have to relate to the same message. Not everyone is going to have the same morals. Not everyone is going to have the same lessons to go off of. That does not mean you should criticize others because they have a different perspective on life because of a moral that they went through. And I still just find it hilarious that this episode was basically pointing at the fans, being like, okay, y'all should stop being so critical of said characters, you know nothing about them. So instead of trying to paint them up as like these figures who are perfect and then arguing, oh, they should be perfect, forget their flaws, don't do that. It's okay for a character to be human. It's okay for a character to have flaws. This episode showed that. And to me, that's what makes it my number one favorite episode of the season. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to that?
I guess I could say the what did I have down for Famous Fortune? I guess like actually funny thing when I first watched this episode, like great, all our reviews are invalid.
Fame and Misfortune, huh?
Yeah, but
I thought it was stupid.
Ouch. That was pretty blunt.
That being said, people still like.
That doesn't mean it's bad. I didn't say it was awful, but it's pretty stupid.
I'm one of those people who did not like the episode.
You mean to
Fame
tell
and
me
Misfortune.
there is so many little loopholes and logical jumps in Fame and Misfortune that just kind of break down and break the whole meta aspect of the episode. Again, I'm not saying it's bad. It is very enjoyable if you think of it as not canon. If you like take it at the same logic of Slice of Life, that this is like a special thing they did for BronyCon, it's neat. It's neat. It's funny, but oh, it's so stupid. And it's funny, stupid, like watching a child fall down the stairs. You know, it's bad, but you're gonna laugh anyway.
I want to also quickly add, one of my favorite moments is not from the episode, but when we were watching it live at BronyCon in that space beneath, like, one of the floors, we had
Yeah,
to pause
God.
the episode because they're just like, oh, but they've learned such great things, like from Rainbow Falls. Voice was there. We all immediately turned and we all started laughing.
No, because the funny thing was I riffed earlier about, I was like, oh, the great lessons, yeah, you could just turn that one page out for Rainbow Falls.
Okay.
And they mentioned Rainbow Falls like literally 2 minutes later.
Briefly on Fame and Misfortune. This is from a script that I'm making a video on Fame and Misfortune. That was going to be my next review. A brief snippet from that. The reason that they're thinking like this is because Twilight was stupid enough to only release the book, and the book only has the morals of season 4. So no wonder they were going to misinterpret the book when you gave them the middle bit of the entire show.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
Of course they don't know how far Fluttershy has come. Of course they don't know how successful Rarity has been. You showed them the middle bit. You showed them
because
chapter
remember
7.
they did mention that Twilight was better without her wings. So I'm assuming they like over the course they did actually end up putting the rest of the journal entries in.
No, I think that was just a jab. Like
No.
that was a. I'm fairly certain that was just a jab at the Twilight controversy.
There's one last
Which I
thing,
agree with.
There's one last thing that I want to say before I pass it back off to, I believe it was Ninja before me.
Yeah, I'm before you.
Let me just make one thing perfectly clear. I noticed, because I saw this in the chat, it's just like, and yet we continue to be critical of them anyway. Here's the big thing about that. We love these characters. We are passionate about this show. Yes, we are critical about it, but it shows how much we love this show. Here's the thing. You can be critical as much as you want. You can say your piece, you can say your opinions, all of that. 2 things. 1, just don't be an asshole about it. And 2, don't make it so that your opinion and your criticism of that character is the end-all be-all word of law. We may be reviewers who host a podcast here, and we continue to be critical of our favorite characters and episodes and what the whole basis of this show is on. But, in the end, we still love these characters. We're still going to watch the next episode. We do care about the show. We're just not going to be assholes about it. And that should just be simple etiquette when it comes to reviewing the show and just understanding that this is a show that may not be our demographic, but at least we love it to a point where we can criticize it fairly.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that people can just get that bit out of the way.
I never understood why so many people look at this episode and they went, well, I guess we can't critique the show anymore. Wow, this is a shot at the analysis community. It really isn't.
It's not.
If your opinions are the same as the one in this episode, then you really need to rethink some of your stuff. And I know that's controversial coming from me, because I think that Twilight was better without wings. So that's funny. But I'm willing to defend that and have a discussion about it. I'm still going to criticize it. Like, if you are insulted that they called out your opinion, chances are you need to think more about your opinion.
Exactly. So I'm going to pass it back to Ninja.
Yeah, right, okay. Now we get to talk about the fun stuff. Now, best episode, of course, is The Perfect Pair. I made a whole video. It was the only video this season so far that made me get up and make a video about it, because it was just so great I had to talk about it. But let's go with number 3 for my third best. My third best is Secrets and Pies. And I know. Just hear me out on this one. I think that you guys take this episode way too seriously. This episode is not an in-depth look into anything or trying to preach a powerful moral. It is 22 minutes of just pure fun. Remember fun? I remember fun. Fun's cool. Remember fun without all the lore or exposition they tried to get across? I remember fun. It is about Dash not trying to eat pie. For Pete's sake, this isn't something you guys should take incredibly detailed, serious character studies of. Like, here's the thing that people seem to forget about Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash is not the brightest member of the main 6. You know, that's not an insult. It's just her character. You know, she cares more about her friends' feelings than the actual truth. You know, that's more talking and being blunt is more Applejack's thing. I mean, it's not like she was lying about something serious. You know, it's pie. She wanted to make Pinky feel better, and she didn't know any better. You know, and without that, we wouldn't have this episode of just a really funny Pinky episode that calls back to her paranoia from season 1, with the fun little twist that she's actually right this time. You know, I thought the jokes were great. I thought that the characterization was on point and really entertaining to watch. and I'm willing to receive scrutiny about my opinion. So bring it, bitches. Let me see who's right. I'll fight you all. It's a great episode. Rar, re. No?
Now
Okay,
wait till
then.
you're after you're done.
Okay, well, I guess I'll move on to number 2, which is probably going to cause even more of an argument, because my number 2 is Rock Solid Friendship. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I haven't rewatched the episode, so I'm not going to be able to give my big bombastic rebuttal to Toon's argument. Halfly because I didn't hear it. I was getting food. I was being completely serious. I stepped away to go get food, and secondly, again, because I haven't seen it in a while. But from what I remember, this episode, it was a fresh, interesting direction to take Pinky's character. The number one thing that Pinky cares about, above her friends, is her sister, Maud. That she is everything to Pinky. She wants her to understand the second most important thing in her life, and that's friendship. You know, to Pinky, this is a thing, this is a cause that justifies her actions. Not to everyone, but to her. In her mind, this makes sense that she would do this, even the crazier stuff like in the cave, which, let's be honest, she would have been completely fine. There was no real threat there. She was with Starlight, who was an overpowered magic user, and 2 expert rock farm diggers. You know, they were completely fine. You know, and looking back, or just trying to remember back to what I remember from that episode, I remember how much I related to Pinky in this episode. You know, I too have had something that I've wanted to shove down people's throats until they liked it, you know, rather than just letting them go by without it. So I understand that this episode may not be for everyone, but I do think that you guys are a little too harsh on this one. It's fresh, it's creative, I think it's great. And I suppose that will... And like you guys want to scrutinize me after I'm finished, right?
Nah, not really.
Ah, alright.
Yes!
Okay, alright, sure. We'll get to that in a bit. My number 1 of this season is the episode that saved Twilight Sparkle for me. If people who don't even need their ear to the ground can hear that I'm not the biggest Twilight fan. I think that her character was hit hard when she became an alicorn. I didn't think they did too much interesting things outside of showing what we already knew about Twilight. And that all changed for me when we came across Once Upon a Zeppelin. Twilight's best moments in the entire show is when she breaks. You know, as sadistic as that might sound, Twilight is a stubborn horse who only learns her lesson when it all comes crashing down. In this case, the consequence, you know, that comes from when you put everyone in front of you. You know, being humble and generous is one thing, but to sacrifice all you wanted so that someone else can be happy, that is self-hatred, and it is psychologically unhealthy, which is a really powerful moral. And I'm just super happy that the show even tackled such a concept. I also like the return of Iron Will, who manipulated the family like a damn fiddle. You know, and that's a fairly understandable thing for him to do, considering the last time they met, the ponies manipulated Iron Will by abusing his generous fine print of the whole not satisfied, not have to pay policy from Season 2. Chuck in some nice humanizing moments from the family, and to be honest, this is just a really nice, wholesome episode that teaches a very strong message, and I couldn't find a crack in its flaw other than the parents were stupid for accepting the letter. But I mean, it was still pretty funny, so I can't really say I despise that element of it. So I thought it was great. I was not prepared to talk about it in massive depth, because I thought we were allowed to talk about the perfect pair. But alas, you know, it's still a really good episode. I thought it was great. So, if there is...
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
I actually really liked Secrets and Pies. I thought it was hysterical. I thought that what it was building up to was a bit of an unorthodox punchline with... Because I was just like, oh, so what's the real oh, okay, that is the real reason. Okay, well played. I thought that was going to go a different direction. Okay, let's see where we go with this. And it ended kind of abruptly, but looking at the episode, it's not really that bad. I mean, some people will find it, like, irritating, but I'm just sitting here like, you know, it's not the worst. It's not the worst episode.
It's harmless, fun filler. That's
basically what it is. It is filler.
Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Will.
If I may, one thing to say about each, two things to say. One for Secrets and Pies, and one for Rock Solid Friendship. Secrets and Pies, I will say this. Yeah, it could be considered a fun romp. but I think the fact we would be a little less harsh on it if it didn't air this late in the show. We probably would be a lot nicer to it if this was, say, like a season 1 or season 2 episode when we were still getting to know these characters. But the fact that we've been around Dash and Pinky for so long, we know a lot about their connection with each other, then we probably wouldn't be as livid, because at this point, they should know each other better. Dash, like, she should practice more communication with Pinky. That way she wouldn't have to go to these extremes. So that's what I chalk it up to as the reason why we're so against Secret Senpais, is that it aired way too late in the show. Now, in the case of Rock Solid Friendship, imagine putting yourself in Maud's horseshoes, as it were. How would you feel if someone was like, you know what? I'm gonna pull this out. Imagine Maud as someone a character like Maud, who has never heard of Friendship is Magic and doesn't really show much interest in wanting to watch Friendship is Magic. Maybe she'll do it on her own time. If someone is trying to shove it in your face constantly every single minute they see you, it is going to get the point where, get away from me. Just imagine, like, that's probably a reason why we're this livid on it, because some of us have been in Maud's position before, where, you know, okay, my sister is introducing this new thing, but I like to check it out for myself. Please give me my space.
Are you saying this is a negative of the episode?
Well, I'm saying this as sort of a rebuttal to your thing about your praises about Rock Solid Friendship.
I know, I praise it, and I completely agree with you, and that's the point. Like, Pinky is not framed as in the right in this episode.
Yeah, but what I just said is mostly the reason why we disliked Rock Solid Friendship, is because, like, there was too much of it. It got uncomfortable.
This is something that maybe you guys can help me understand, because I saw it with What About Discord with Josh Scorch's review recently as well. Am I the only one who appreciates it when the show does uncomfortable things? When the show shows something that is real and isn't nice to sit through, and something that the show purposefully and executing well something that is meant to feel slightly uncomfortable. Like, when Spike sung at the Crystal Empire, a lot of people harped on it that, it's so cringy, this is a terrible episode. That was the point. They meant to do that. And I understand that just because you know they meant to do that doesn't make it enjoyable. I don't understand. I get how you can just not find it enjoyable. That's fine. But to treat it as a negative aspect of the show, something that the show failed to do, I don't understand. Because in every sense, the show succeeded in exactly. It's the whole point was to make you feel that way. And I can appreciate the show putting in the effort and actually pulling off conveying those emotions. I don't see it from the top level of, let's use the Spike example. This song is super cringy. I don't enjoy this. I'm not having fun. I'll see, okay, the episode tried to convey something that's unenjoyable. Why? Okay, so why do they want this? I mean, and through that and understanding why they make the decisions that they do, that makes it a good thing for me. That maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm a crazy person. But I like it when the show conveys emotion. And like you said, Maud's thing is uncomfortable to sit through, mainly because maybe you relate to it, or maybe you've seen someone else who relates to it. Maybe you relate to Pinky, and you've had to deal with the consequences of that.
That should probably...
Surely representing that is a good thing.
I think, like, at the end of the day, just so we're not dragging on this topic, because I know we got to move on. This is
It's
Or
been
is
an
it
hour
like
and a half, guys.
Yeah,
I wanna-
Auntie,
like,
Will, I think you're
I'm going to be honest. We were covering 6 episodes each. I mean, we weren't going to get this under an hour and a half. Let's be honest. I don't think we'll even get it under 2 hours.
Well,
No,
let's
we're just
try
supposed
it.
to talk about our
Fair enough.
thoughts real quick and then move on.
Alright.
But at the same time, just to wrap this up, I think we could just chalk it up, different strokes, different folks.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right, so is Key up for best part, or should we
Yep.
go?
She is up.
Did you want to go for best?
Sup, fuckers.
Hey.
Okay.
Go ahead, Keith.
My favorite episodes of season 7.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Secrets and Pies.
Yeah, girl.
I don't care if this feels like a season 2 or 3 episode. Personally, I felt like it was a season 3 episode. But you know what? Season 3 is tied with season 5 as my favorite season of the show. So I am perfectly fine with that. I feel like it's okay for us to sometimes have these little episodes that remind us of the olden days. I feel like it's fine. Especially when it's not... It's fine when it's not giant freaking character development stuff. This was just silly fun, and you know what? I enjoyed it. It's been a while since we've gotten it's been since Gilda, since we've gotten a nice Rainbow Dash Pinky fun time, and I'm more than happy with it. And people are way too harsh on a little thing. Fun. This is a slice of life show. Have fun.
I think the keyframe might be an alternate dimension version of British Ninja, but I'm not quite sure on this theory.
Let's let her keep
Anyway,
going.
number
Guys.
2.
No, I'm having fun. Let him say his things. Number 2. Also, I want to make it clear. Perfect Pair was never my number 1 for this season.
Okay.
It's actually number 4. So, I like these episodes more than Perfect Pair.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just letting people know that. Number 2. Parental Guidance.
Hey.
Let me explain.
Sure.
I love Rainbow Dash's parents. I wish I had parents like that. And I don't think, if you know my backstory and my family history, you wouldn't want I don't need to go further.
I give you a hug. Carry on.
But yeah, I like the episode. Rainbow was in the right to snap at them, but I feel like with the whole thing of, I feel like with how their family dynamic is and how they were acting towards each other, there didn't need to be a vocal apology made. I think they understood it because they understood each other, and that's something we need to understand with families sometimes. Sometimes with families, things don't need to be vocally said. And I just really like that, and I felt for Scootaloo during this episode so much, holy Christ. And the ending, when they are cheering Scootaloo, warmed my heart. It made me feel warm fuzzies, and I love it. Oh, Scootaloo, you are still my favorite. And number 1, my favorite episode of this series, the episode that made me laugh the most and made me so happy, was Rock Solid Friendship. Let me tell you guys a story about Rock Solid Friendship. Lightning Bliss and ToonKriticY actually heard my live reactions to the episode because they saw it before me and they were complaining and they were talking about Pinky, and I was like, what are you guys talking about? And they're like, oh, watch the episode and you'll find out. And I was like, fine, I'll react to it live. And they were taken aback with how much laughter was coming out of me. And I think people who have watched this podcast for so long have heard my beautiful speech about Pinky with pomp and circumstance in the background, and that hasn't changed. When during the time of season 7 going on, this year sucked for me. I hated it. I had a majority of pain and suffering throughout the course of this year, and that mostly occurred during season 7. And this was an episode that took me out of my cynicism, made me laugh, made me enjoy, and made me have a good time. More than a lot of episodes of the show have done in a while. And, that's all I can really ask. Because at the end of the day, I got into the fandom as a form of escapism and community. And this episode helped provide me some escapism. Was it the best written? No. Was it like one of the best episodes of anything ever? No. But I think if it makes me feel good and it makes me have a laugh and it gives me some cartoony fun, I think it served its purpose quite well, and I salute the person who wrote this episode. Thank you for making something that brought a little bit of joy into my life when things were really bleak.
Hear, hear.
Aww.
That gets props.
Smooch ya!
You guys can have your gripes about the episode, and you're in your right. But I will never fully agree with them because this episode made me way too happy.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, I just want to point out about a little thing about parental guidance. So I think it's something we actually forgot about to talk about in the actual Roundtable's Magic podcast. Skulu almost got her head pureed by a lawnmower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids.
And you know what? That's awesome.
I'm
What?
sorry you had such a rough year. I mean, you had to put up with me at BronyCon. That must have been awful.
Oh no, our friendship has been a highlight of my year, Ninja.
Yeah. You had to put
You
up with
were a
all of us. How
highlight of
dreadful.
2017. Anyway, I am passing it back to Will, and I'm gonna go check the mail and then go lie down.
Get well
Bye,
soon.
everyone.
Welcome back, Keyframe. We
See you
missed
next
you.
season.
Feel better.
Feel better for Saturday, you butt.
All right. For
Let's speed
my
through
top-
this.
All right, I'll try and see what I can do. For my top three, I already wrote them down in the chat, but actually, while I was thinking about them, I actually have to switch mine around. My number three is now my number two. And number two was originally a royal problem, but that just bumped down to number four because now my new number three is an episode I'm surprised nobody really talked about. I really loved Triple Threat. Triple Threat, to me, I thought was possibly one of the best. I don't like. Did Spike have any other episodes this season? To my knowledge, I think.
Not really.
No.
Well, even if this was Spike's only episode this season, this was. I felt like this was an episode where he was pushed to the limits about being an ambassador for both the Changeling Kingdom and the Dragonlands, and to try to help them each other, even though they never really met.
Hey, Will, you're breaking up there. We can't quite hear you.
No, none of that.
Hello?
There you go.
You're good. I hear you.
Try again.
Yeah.
And he's breaking up again.
Shit. Hello?
Yes. Give it a sec to balance out. Don't worry. That
Am
is
I good
so
now?
weird. Yeah, try now.
Okay. This was a really nice conflict to go through, I believe. Being an ambassador to both the Dragonlands and the Changeling Kingdom to try to take two different species to coalesce with each other. I thought it was a really nice conflict, and this I felt was like, especially at the end, near the third act, before Thorax and Ember, made amends. The two of them fighting each other. This I felt was Spike's Lesson 0, and I loved it. So that's all I can really say about Triple Threat. Number two, Golden actually touched upon my negatives for this episode for the first two acts, but I actually have to really applaud the third act, and that episode for me, number two, is Parental Guidance. Now, this was actually a bit of a personal episode for me, because I have been in that position where my parents were really, really overbearing and embarrassing. And I agree. Dash was completely in the right to tell them off. I've been seeing a lot of people saying, "Oh, Dash was in the wrong. She shouldn't have yelled at her parents. She should have just talked to them like a normal thing." This is yeah, but would Dash's parents have listened? This was almost like Mysterious Mare Duel if the roles were reversed in this sort of sense. The thing that really made this episode stand out for me, like Keyframe said earlier, the third act with Scootaloo. Yes, all of this mess was her fault to begin with, I will say that much. But when Dash told her the story about how her parents were the only support she got to help her be the best that she can be now, and seeing that Scootaloo never got that, I just wanted to reach out to the screen and hug her. And also, I don't know if this will hold much water, but with that sort of sentence, it's possibly confirmed that Scootaloo was an orphan.
Well, that's...
I know
Hopefully they
it
explore
might-
that
I know-
later on.
Yeah, I know it might not hold much water, but it's at least, a bit of a sign that could be a possibility. I mean, I know there's also, the book where she has 2 aunts and stuff like that, but I don't at least count that for now. But yeah, I related to Rainbow Dash in this episode, and I felt for Scootaloo. I will say this much: the first 2 acts, I admit, they were painful to sit through, because I thought Rainbow Dash's parents were really overstepping their bounds. They had good intentions, but this was really exaggerated to the point where it was kind of borderline criminal, especially with the fireworks. But anyway, that's my stance on parental guidance. I still stand by it. It's a fantastic episode, at least in the third act. The first 2, yeah, they were chore to sit through, but regardless, my number 1, if there's one thing that I enjoy about any sort of media, it's when a character I like is either pushed to their limits or at their absolute lowest, but they come right back up and say, "Hey, you tried to knock me down when I was down. Look at me now, bitches." I haven't felt that in any other episode aside from my number 1, It Isn't the Main Thing About You. It's no secret that Rarity is bae for me. And yeah, like the conflict, how it came to be was a bit eh. But I will say this much: Rarity, she used what she got, however low it was, and she came back full circle to try to make something new of it. And while I still have my reservations on how when her hair finally grew back was handled, like I mentioned back in the actual Roundtable episode about it, Rarity being pushed that far, seeing her that low, and coming up from it better than before, I absolutely love seeing that. It shows that I love. It's almost like like in that episode, Rarity is in a kin sense to Spike. Spike always does what he can to help, with no thank yous necessary. He has a lot of chivalry and practicality in some senses, and Rarity utilized that flawlessly here. So, It Isn't the Main Thing About You. Technically, it's my number 2 episode behind Perfect Pair, but in this sort of sense, my number 1, baby.
All right.
And with that, I think the only 2 people left are Bliss and Voice. So yeah, go ahead, Bliss.
Holy crap, we've been at this for so long.
We can do this. We can do this.
Hey man, you're the one who said we should do 6 episodes each.
I didn't think it'd be this long.
What did you
Hey, we're
6
fine.
episodes?
I thought we'd get through this faster. It's all good. Go ahead, Bliss.
When you appear before me, my heart stopped beating. Stars cross the sky to see what I was seeing. Okay, if anybody has a guess what episode for number 3, It's hard to say anything. This was the episode that made me stop cringing whenever I saw Vincent Tong's name come up in the credits. Now, it's no secret that when we interviewed Vincent Tong, he kind of flirted with me in the podcast, and then it became a running gag, and then it became a shipping war between me and Silver.
And then it became actual, like physical print being signed by Vincent Tong.
Yep. And for a while, I would cringe every time I heard his name come up, brought up, reminded, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Vincent Tong is a really hot-looking guy, but I'm happily married, and
I'm not, so.
But that being said, multiple reasons why I love this episode. I mean, yes, I guess some people would consider this a goofy filler, but Peter New got more voice work done with Big Mac, which I am super happy to see. I just love hearing what Big Mac has to say. The fact that he had a romance going on was just super adorable because he's such a dork, and I love it. But then you throw in this other character, Featherbanks, and you think he's a stuck-up Backstreet Boy clone, which I'm sorry, I love it.
He's a fuckboy.
I just absolutely love it. I just love it. I love the parody they did when Big Mac and Featherbanks had a sing-off. That was by far my favorite moment of the episode. But then to find out later on that, Featherbanks is not this playboy, like, I'm gonna steal your girl waifu, even though that is what Vincent Tong does. No, but he's actually a clueless romantic who's very shy of mares and doesn't know what to say other than to what his talent is telling him. And I loved that at the end, and I loved the romance. It reminded me of when my husband was pursuing me, and that he was a dork, and he didn't know what to do because he was kind of scared of me at the time. But then when he saw an opening, he just took it. Kind of like Big Mac saw the opening, and he took it. And, It is a fun episode. The CMC were cute and adorable with their curiosity. I loved that they were trying to help Big Mac, and at the end of the day, they ended up offering to help Featherbanks too. That was adorable. And then everything just working out in the end. I had so much fun with this episode. Gushing, okay. Which carries me on to part 2, which is a royal problem. Now, I have a really hard time finding anything wrong with this episode. I really have to dig deep. I loved how Twilight was with her being like obsessive with what's going on, and she just cannot know because she wasn't supposed to go. The map didn't send her. Starlight was the perfect character to deal with this problem. The map was actually right in that department. But what really sent me over the edge of loving this episode was when the two sisters finally snap at each other and then work it out. It makes me think of, back then, God, they probably never talked about what was bugging them. And that's what ended up with the Nightmare and Moon saga in the first place. Okay, but that's a stretch. This is an assumption. This is a theory. It can't be proven. But finally, after seeing what Celestia goes through, now I don't like the fact that they kind of just sweep it under the rug as, oh, well, Celestia smiles all day while she deals with everybody in the public. It's more than that. Celestia is the face of a ruler. She is the one that everybody goes to when they have a problem. She has to be a face of encouragement constantly. Like, she can never get a break and just be a little upset or worried or... No, she has to be the perfect leader to everybody, and she's not, and this episode shows that. Whereas Luna, we already kind of know what Luna is about, and then we get a more in-depth role of what she does, and it's very chaotic and emotionally hard to deal with. They both have two very different tasks, and they both do not understand those tasks, and they finally get a chance to understand it. And what happens? Luna becomes exhausted and paranoid about whether or not she's good enough at being a leader to her subjects. Celestia is overwhelmed because she can't deal with all the pressures that are going on in somebody's mind. And then when they finally break, Celestia says the most bravest thing you could probably ever say to your sibling, and that's, I can't do this. I don't know how you do this at all. You're the most bravest pony I've ever known. I don't know how you do this every night, but I can't do it. I just can't. And Celestia is crumbling. And Luna, that's all Luna needed to hear from her, that, oh, you do respect what I do then. Yes. No, Celestia, you are not weak. You have all the power you need right here because I believe in you. Because we are sisters, and with us together, there's nothing we can't do. And Celestia regathers herself and finishes the task. And, it's just sibling bonding and figuring out how these two work, how they work together. Finally, they're connecting. It is an episode, it's not exactly a full-blown Celestia episode, but it was something I wanted to see with Celestia. Character development, and I'm gushing again. It's one of my favorite episodes of Season 7. But now, moving on to number 1, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised about this. I am not going to review too much, because I'm actually doing a review on this, and I'm going to release it this Saturday. It's Once Upon a Zeppelin. Shut up!
See, I didn't say anything that time.
You're snake in the grass. We're gonna get you. Yeah, you keep laughing, Peanuts. Anyway. Personal reasons why I love this episode. It's the nail hitting me in the head. It's had a personal slap in the face to me and Dr. Wolf, obviously. Again, I don't want to spoil anything because my review is going to lay out a lot of why this episode affects me personally. So I'm just going to tackle one thing I didn't fully focus on. And that was the something that we, I hate saying this term, horse famous people have to deal with on a daily basis. Again, I hate the term horse famous, but it is a title for popularity. And yes, I am acknowledging that a lot of people know who we are when we go to cons. From 300 to over 7,000 people may know who we are. And that's pressuring. And when we are in the public eye at cons and stuff, we have to put on a face like Twilight did, or like Celestia does, where we have to keep a professional stance, be patient, be calm and understanding. Even we have the most cringiest fans like Star Trekker, and we have to nod our head and smile and be patient and polite, say thank you for being a fan or a viewer, without them realizing the fact that they are dripping spit down our ear, stepping on our feet, hovering over us like they are our butts. And BrodyCon this year was really, really hard for me because Zach, Ellie, Will, everybody here knows that I am more of an introvert than I like to admit. And when I'm stuck at a dinner table all day and I'm meeting fans, it gets tiring after a while. What I should have done is, instead of going out late at night to be with everybody and check out the panels or the lip sync battle or Out of the Edge, I should have gone to my room and recover. But I didn't, because I wanted to experience what everybody else was experiencing. And like I think it was after lip sync battles or Anthony C's panel, so many people kept coming up to me when all I wanted to do was sit next to Zach or Ellie or Tarek or Doc and just get some air. But none of these fans were allowing me to do that. And by instinct and professionalism, I tried to answer their questions, nod and smile. I cracked. Unlike Twilight, where Twilight literally says, "I'm sorry, but if it happened, it'd be more practically standing on my tail." I didn't do that, but I did crack. I ran to Eliora, asked her if I could sit behind her chair. Literally, sit behind her chair. And I cried. Because I didn't want to be there anymore. I wanted to be invisible. I was gone to the world. I did not want to be there anymore because I couldn't stand any more human interaction with people who clearly did not understand the meaning of, "Please leave me alone. I'm trying to walk over there. I've answered your questions. Just give me some space." I tried giving subtle hints, but some of these people are gifted. They don't understand subtle hints. Some of them have social awkwardness issues. Some of them have Asperger's or advanced autism. It's not their fault. Sometimes you have to be blunt and let them know what's on your mind. But I didn't do that. Instead, I crumbled and cried behind a chair at BronyCon. And this episode screamed to me that we, as people who are in the public eye, we need to remember that our fans may have special needs and stuff. I'm not saying we don't have needs too, but we can do better to voice our opinion or our needs. Let them know that, hey, I need some space. Please leave us alone for a bit. It's not being mean. It's not being hurtful. It's just explaining that, hey, we need space. And they probably don't understand that. Some of us, apparently, I know I am specifically, are struggling to do that with our fans that just don't understand that. And what ends up happening is we get angry with each other. We get angry with those fans. Security or con staff have to get involved. And it's sad when that happens, because that ruins everybody's con experience. Not just us, but the fans and the staff. The last thing the staff want to do is to tell somebody, hey, you can no longer hang out or talk to these people. You're making them uncomfortable. It's very sad. And that's what I love about this episode. It is teaching us to be a little more understanding. That's my number one. And I will, does anybody have anything to say, or shall I move on?
No.
No, I agree.
No.
You pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Pretty much, yeah.
Emotion.
Right.
I'm shaking with emotion. Whew.
Alrighty.
No, I felt not nearly as big as yours, but I've had some similar situations. I'm sure we all have.
Oh, yeah.
Any names, but I do remember that when the first time at Equestria LA in 2012, there was somebody who knew who I was and kept following me around all the time, and it got on my nerves. And I know that feeling that somebody is becoming clingy. They never stop to think, step back, and leave them alone and let them do their own thing. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there because I don't want to talk too much.
Yeah, I pass it back to our last reviewer, Voice.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, first of all, I just want to say how funny is, like, last time I was the last to go for the worst episodes. Now I'm going last for the best episodes. All right, so I just want to point out number 2 would have been Perfect Pair. So I have to reach down to my number 4. But first, I want to introduce you with saying, you know, they say that the best form of birth control is other people's kids. Well, if those kids are as cute and adorable as Flurry Heart and a flurry of emotions, consider me fertile.
Wow.
Wow. Bravo. That was genius, boys.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the flurry of emotions. Now, most of the episode is Flurry Heart being cute and Twilight taking on the role of Ant while balancing other tasks for the day. Then again, it's Flurry Heart being cute and Twilight acting as Ant for the day. I mean, how much more adorable can this episode get? The answer is none. None more adorable. And whoever got that reference, you're a genius. All right, now, my number 3 actually will now bump up to number 2. Now, it's rare for an episode for me to actually get personal within the show. I can think of, like, a couple of examples off the top of my head. Ponyville Confidential is the obvious one. Read It and Weep, Stranger Than Fanfiction, Brotherhood of Social, sort of. But for this season, for my number 2 pick, Discordant Harmony actually had a more recent effect on me. It's interesting. It's interesting to see what years of interacting with each other can have on each person. Discord, when setting up a tea party, took into account who Fluttershy was and attempted to make things comfortable for her. In the meantime, Fluttershy's interactions with the chaotic being has her become more open and extroverted, and it reminds me a lot of my relationship with Sega. Yeah, she's an introvert, and I have to keep in mind social situations are not her forte. However, hanging out with me and meeting my friends and family has gotten her to interact more and open up. It's the little things that go a long way.
Well, thank you, honey.
Love you too.
Well, that's actually really sweet now that you think about it.
Now, my number one pick, the episode I loved over all that everyone else, Ninja, Bliss. I'm sorry when I say this, but Shadowplay is awesome, and I don't give two fucks if it's just continuity porn.
Oh, Lord.
But it doesn't even match the continuity.
Yes, it does. I actually did look into, whatchamacallit, the Journal of the Two Sisters. All the events actually do match up, if you can actually match up. Now, they said, I loved every single moment in this episode, and yes, I even liked Twilight and Starlight in this episode. Twilight, I liked seeing Twilight and her bookwormy self geeking out on the chance to meet her magical idol, but in the end, had to be reminded by her student that there is always another way to solving the issue outside of blowing up a pony to smithereens. And speaking of that student, again, Ninja, you're going to disagree with me on this, Starlight really came through in this episode as a pony who learns from her past mistakes and applying it to the current situation. Now, is she fully redeemed? It depends on who you ask. But after watching this episode, Starlight is okay in my book. I freaking love this episode. It is the second best finale after Twilight's Kingdom.
Yay!
So
I love this.
So what you're saying is Starlight's cool, right? Starlight's a good character, right?
She's all right.
She's. I
Okay.
can vouch for voice on
I think Starlight
I'm
is
okay with the
alright,
Glim Glam, and not found with the Zim Zam.
I can vouch for voice on this. She's getting there. She's doing okay. Not there quite yet, but she's slowly but surely, I guess. So.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you know what? In that case, I think this calls for something that we've been holding off for quite a while. Glim Glam Zim Zam.
Zam.
By the way, Toon, do you have the meme face thingy?
Oh yes, I almost forgot about that, the whole meme face thing. But for such an interesting finale, I've not picked not one, not two, but I've picked 3 winners.
Ooh! Show us.
All right.
Really?
This one was super difficult for me to choose because for the first time ever, I could not pick just one. So I'm going to link these 3 here for you guys.
Okay, let's see what we got.
Now let me start to show you guys what we got in terms of the meme face.
Oh, yes.
Oh no!
All of these are great. Just saying.
Okay, hold on.
Wow.
Okay, here's the first one.
Now let me. Now,
Okay, that's a one.
so we're gonna go in descending order from third place to second place. No, ascending from third to first. So the first one is this one right here from Juggle Debuggle. It's simply I pooted. When he told me this, I could not stop laughing just at how silly the whole thing was. It's Chuggle. Chuggle and I think another person, I don't remember who, but I remember, no, it was Silver. It was Silver and him that came up with this, so I just went along with it because I thought it was just got freaking hysterical.
Wow.
Now,
Hey, you're kind of taking this a little too seriously. Have a little fun with toilet humor.
it's that pooted. Second place is this one right here. This comes to us from, hang on, where did I put... I had the name for this. The person, I had to dig around, actually. Oh, yes, from Lily Sparkle Art. I'm still the main character. That was a really good one, too. And the winner of this week's Roundtable meme face comes to us from Voice of Reason. This is the weirdest game of facelift I've ever played.
Oh my god, voice, that was yours?
I loved all of these so
Bravo, my
much.
friend, bravo!
Like, when I saw this face, I immediately told everyone, okay, I want you all to get creative. If I see a single notice me, like, senpai noticed me, you're out. I did not see that at all. I saw a lot of really good creative ones for this. So, these three are all winners in my book.
Wow.
So,
For all you Mario Party fans.
Oh, voice.
I got my own personal one for this one. I got my own personal one for the Twilight face. I can still keep working, says Lightning Bliss.
So, with that, we have come to the end of the Season 7 journey. It has been a long, long journey. This episode went on for a lot longer than I think most of us were anticipating it for. But that's okay, because we had a lot to talk about in this. Season 7 was a pretty decent season. We're looking forward to Season 8. And we still got the movie to talk about, too. We'll get to that at another point. But from all of us here at Roundtable is Magic, thank you guys for having us for another season. You know, I didn't think we would make it through Season 6, but we've made it through Season 7 as well. And it's been an honor from everybody here. I think we've all really enjoyed this. It's still a great podcast. And we're looking forward to what comes out of us next year, in the coming new year, 2018. Hopefully the show will still be good. And if not, we'll just pack up our bags and go home and rethink our lives. Or
No more leaks.
What?
No more
No
leaks.
more leaks.
Oh, yeah, no more leaks. Please, no more of
No
that.
more leaks for the love of God and all Celestia.
Show
I
some
will,
patience.
we will leave you with this. Ponies are like drugs. You gotta pay your dealer.
Ah.
I
Overall,
like that.
overall, great times from everybody. I look forward to seeing what we do next. So, thank you all for watching, and stay awesome.